Thanks for hopping on, everyone. We got a really we'll call today. We got a bunch of moms on here. So March is Women's History Month. Last week we had Sam and Alondra. This week we have a mom of 2, a mom of 3, a mom of 6, and a mom of 10. So we'll get started. Are you on, Elaine?
Yes, I'm on.
Awesome. Elaine, can you kind of give us an introduction or a little bit of background on how you got started in the industry and how many kids you have?
All right, awesome. Well, thanks, Janelle, for having me on. I appreciate it. So I started in the insurance industry in October of 2018. I was already kind of involved in the insurance industry because I was an admin for an agent, but I actually started physically selling insurance in October of 2018. I was part-time up until like June of 2020. And then that's when I stopped working a full-time job and just started as a full-time agent. I have 2 kids and it's a fun age. I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. And it's interesting to see them just like growing up and but this job allows me to be everything that's important with them and then also be able to provide a really good income for my family.
Awesome. Leah, how did you get started in the industry and how many kids do you have?
Okay, I got sucked into this from my husband, Colton, which most everyone kind of knows. Started helping him dial, do that kind of thing. Have a nursing background and some real estate under my belt, and he eventually, I guess, got me going in this, and it was a competitive thing. I just thought if he could do it, I could probably do it better, and so here we are.
How many kids do you guys have together?
We have 3. We have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
So Colton's that good of a salesman. He sold you on joining the industry, huh?
I was told I could not have kids, so I feel like the doctors tricked me into this, but here we are. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Teresa, mom of 6. How'd you get started in the industry?
So I've been with Family First Life since July of 2020. I had no aspirations to do this. I was helping Brandon dial. And I seen how he was, helping families and getting paid his worth. So I decided to get licensed myself. So we have 6 kids together from 24, 22, 22, 17, 10, and 11. So I'm very busy, but definitely make time to produce, lead a team. Was one of the first females here on SkyPoint to have a logo and also go VP. So I'm very proud of that. Continue to show other females and other moms and wives how to do this and make it work.
Awesome. All right. Mom of 10. I can't believe I'm saying that. 10. What are their ages and how did you get started, Anna?
Like Elaine, and thanks for having me on here. This is fun. I love this. Like Elaine, so we were moving down from North Dakota. We were oil field and oil field went flat, as you guys know, and we were looking for a way out. We'd been in the oil field for about 10 years. And it just wasn't family friendly, family conducive. And so when we knew we were moving from North Dakota down to Arizona, we realized that we're going to have to become a 2-income household again. And I needed something with 10 kids. Our oldest is 20. Our youngest set of twins are 4 years old. And I knew I would need something flexible, something where I could still be a mom. That was my dream. I did not have career aspirations, but when Matt got sick, as moms, you guys know, you do what you got to do, right? And so when we came down, I said, life insurance, I believe in life insurance. I like working with people and helping people. And that's kind of what got us in, is just the flexibility to be able to make my own schedule and my own income as well. I didn't have to be capped by what somebody else said that they could pay me. I could, do all the football and the wrestling and the trips and all of that. If I wanted to do that, I just had to work for it. So I started, same as Elaine, as an admin, and I did that from July of 2020 all the way to April of 2022. Where I started selling, and that's when I started selling and building the agency with Mac. And that's how we came to be.
Awesome. I feel like we all kind of have the same background where we were that supportive spouse where we were all admins for them, or, you know, the dialer, the recruiter, all of the above, cook, you know what I mean? So when you guys first started out, we'll start with Teresa. When you first started in the industry, what did you think you can do versus what you actually did? Because you mentioned, you know, you have your own agency of FFL Unparalleled. Can you go more into detail about that?
I really didn't think I could, make it what it is today, where my team is doing over 2 million a year. I was really just looking to produce, to see how this business is ran. If something were to happen to Brandon, how can I provide for the family without having to miss time and do things that I need to be doing for my kids? So this just started out with, don't help me, let me figure this out on my own. Pretend you're not here. Let me see if I can do this. So just my first month part-time, and when I say part-time, I'm running around my kids' schedule. So they're not the reason why I don't do this, they're the reason why I do this. You can't be both. You can't stay home. I can't dial because my kids are home. That is why I do it. I stay home. I was starting in my backyard dialing for Brandon, and I started to book for myself. And it was just something small. Then it just became, okay, I got this. Let me show others how to do this. So from thinking I didn't, let me just make my monthly salary that I make at my 9 to 5 turned into something where I quadrupled that in a month. That just kind of blew me away. And from there, it was like, okay, we gotta get moving.
It's amazing. And say that again. You said you're not doing it. Say that again about your kids.
I'm not doing, it can't be the reason. It has to be one reason. Are you doing this? You got to do this for your kids, not because they're there as a burden. You know what I'm saying? Like, we do this because our kids need better. We all lived lives where we were working 9 to 5s. I want to do this so my kids don't ever have to do a job interview. They're never going to interview for anybody. They're never going to have to sell themselves to show them what they can do, and be capped at an income that they, that they'll never be able to survive on. I do this, it can't be, oh, I can't dial because my kids are, in the background. That's not going to work for me. You're on my agency, you're one of the moms on my team. That's the reason why we do this. The reason why we do this is to spend that time with our kids. So it's just something that I like to, I know it sounds kind of harsh, but I do say that to women on the team. Is like, look, they can't be the reason why you don't do it. They got to be the reason why you do it, why you get up every day and go to the 9 to 5 and drive there and sit there for hours with the headset on and, get screamed at by crazy people. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to get paid my worth. So
I love that. And your kids are amazing. If anyone follows Teresa on social media, one of her daughters is actually in the industry selling herself. So you and Brandon play such a great example towards them. And your 2 younger girls, man, they're going to be great business owners one day. She's like making all the crochet stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to buy some of that.
Yeah, so my oldest daughter had a full ride scholarship to ASU, and she used to come home every weekend and see what Brandon was doing, see how well he was helping other families, and he was getting paid his worth for it. And she just decided after her first year in college, hey, I don't want to go to school anymore. And I said, well, why'd you go? Well, I did it for you. Well, don't do it for me, do it for yourself. So I'm always going to be supportive of what my kids decide to do. School will always be there. But right now, she's one of my top producers, and she's building an agency of her own. So I'm very proud to say that. I know a lot of people think, well, she quit school. Oh my God, that's my child. I'll support her to the end of the earth.
Amen. You go, Rihanna. She's on this call too. All right, Elaine, how about you? What did you think that you could possibly do here at Family First Life versus what you're actually doing now?
Honestly, when I got started, it was funny because it was like out of necessity. It wasn't like I didn't want to do it. I was just like, I tell everyone I'm a 7-year associate's degree at a community college person. Like I just would start classes, drop out. So I was always a mom. Like that was what I wanted to do. Wanted to be home with the kids, be out and volunteer in their classes. And my husband actually started in the insurance industry first. He hurt himself. He was on workman's comp at his full-time job. he couldn't have additional income coming in. So I didn't have a choice. I had to step up. I had to provide, be that person to provide, because, you know, that's what he did forever. So we're a team. So I stepped up, and when I got started, Trey was like, just do it, see if you like it. And I was like, I'm not going to. And he was like, I'll give you your first a couple of appointments. So I ended up like running appointments that he gave me. And I ended up helping a couple of families. And I was like, oh, I do like this. I like helping people. I like knowing that I left someone in a better situation than when I first met them. And that, I mean, for me, like protecting families, I was like, it changed our life completely, going from like living off of credit cards and being in a like crazy amount of debt to being able to pay everything off. It's, you know, we were able, you know, I've been able to protect a ton of families, and I've been able to help people do the same thing. So it's just, I don't know, it's a great industry. And I tell everyone, I didn't think I was going to be able to do anything. And then just to be able to have the little bit of success I have, it's been huge.
Touch more on that. You said Taylor got sick, your husband, right? And then it caused you to step up, help provide for the family. And I didn't know this. He started in the industry before you did.
He did, yes. So, okay, so when we had our son, that was in 2013, he had like a back surgery. And so so then he started working again, and then he got rehurt. He used to work for DirecTV. He like slipped on ice and he got rehurt, and then they put him on workman's comp because he had to have like another surgery. And when they did that, our income went from being like X amount, which we were like barely making it anyway, to being like, I don't know, like 50% of what it was. And we were just, it was impossible. We were like not making any money. We had moved in with his parents. It was crazy. So it was just, this opportunity has allowed me to just change our financial situation completely. And then now I'm trying to get him back into the industry with me.
Have him do some admin work for you.
That's what he does right now. I tell him he's my admin.
There you go. And Anna, you had mentioned that Matt got sick while you were giving us your intro, and it caused you to, you know, take a step up as well too with providing. Can you touch more on that?
Yeah, for sure. So we went oil filled back in 2012. About 2012, when our first set of twins were a little bit over a year. So he went, and then in 2013, 2014, he was having some leg problems. He got diagnosed with an incurable tumor, and we spent the next 5 years in and out of surgery, radiation. He had like 5 or 6 surgeries during that time. And so about 2.5 years into that, when we learned that he would go back into surgery again and he'd probably be out for another year, then I went and I started working on the rigs. And so we kind of swapped places. So for about 2.5 years, I worked the rigs, and that was really interesting. Nothing I'd ever do again, but it was cool. It was a cool experience. But it really opened our eyes to, you know, we all have a plan in life, and especially like a lot of you have said, you know, our plan was to be a mom, and that was my plan too. You know, obviously we've got a lot of kids, right? That's another, as you guys know, being a mom is another full-time gig outside of even working, especially if you want to be involved and support them and pick them up and be that person. And so when life doesn't turn out as you expect it, and I don't think it does for any of us the way we expect it, you just kind of have to pick up and step in where you can. At that point in life, the only option that we knew of for me to be able to replace, because he was making, I mean, he was working like 120 hours a week, and we were bringing home about 160,000 a year off of oil rigs. And so I was like, there's no way. I have a college degree, but there's no way I can replace that income, you know, like that. We didn't know any other industry at that point in time. And so that's when I went and worked the rigs. And then when we got tired of it, when, you know, it's a really, really hard life. It is a lot of hours, a lot of time away. That's what made us realize, okay, so we have to replace a double 6-figure income between him and I. So how are we going to do that? What industry, because we both have college degrees, we both have bachelors, but what industry can we get into that's going to allow us to replace that income just so we can live, right? And we never thought, I don't want to say thought, but we really didn't believe that life insurance could really do it, but we were willing to give it a try. We were kind of jaded going into it, to be honest with you. We were going into it more to prove everybody wrong. Like, no, you're giving us fake numbers. You're really, you're doing something on the side or whatever. But that's really where for us, it was like when one partner, I think it was you, Teresa, that said it, or maybe it was you, Elaine. Like if one partner goes down, the other one steps in. That's just what you do as a team, no matter what. And that's what Mac and I did as well. That's what we've done back and forth the whole time.
So when you first ran appointments, Anna, what did you feel? What were you expecting? Were you scared? What was it like?
So I'm a serious introvert. So I actually got licensed before Mac, and it was more one of those things where I was like, Mac, you should do this, right? I'll get licensed, you get licensed, but you should do this. And so when the opportunity for me to be an admin stepped up, I was like, cool, it's immediate income. And then I would listen to him, I would dial for him. I sold a handful of policies because I was licensed, and I kept listening to him because we were in the offices, and I would make these appointments for him, and I'd be like, oh, he sold it. That feels so good, right? I made the appointment, you sold it. We're a great team. And guys, I was bringing in, I was working as an admin 50, 60, 70 hours a week. And I was netting, I was bringing home $4,400 a month. And that does not cover our household bills, not even half of them. And so I was like, okay. And every time we went to a training or I'd hear him, I'd be like, well, what if I could work half those number of hours and just bring that $4,400 a month in? Like, if only I worked 30 hours a week, could I bring in $4,400? And that was my expectation. Like, I was like, if I can just replace my income and not work 60, 70 hours a week and not have to check in with somebody else and not have to explain why I'm, not in my office and why I'm in pickup line or why I'm, getting my lashes done or whatever it is that I'm doing, I don't have to ask for permission, that would be worth it. And that was kind of my expectation going in, or my hope, is that I would make $4,400 a month just so I could replace my income. And I didn't think, I was hoping I could, but I was scared to death.
Yeah. How about you, Leah? When you first started running appointments, how did you feel? Did you do face-to-face appointments or a little bit of both face-to-face and telesales?
For the most part, I started pretty roughly on just his annual reviews. It had been something I'm like, you've let these go for so long, like we need to be calling these. But as a blessing, we had a lead problem where he had so many new leads coming in. He just wasn't worried about, he had I'm just going to pick up everything that becomes available problem. And so he'd get all these leads, and I'm like, what about your book of business, like that you're making and creating? And so I kind of like eased my way into it. I still say I have zero structure in the home. Like I've been all virtual. I think I did 2 in-home appointments, and my very first one, of course I've gone with him on his appointments and just kind of watched and, made jokes on the side, but that was pretty much it. So I went into my first actual in-home appointment. He was 95, he had cancer, and he wanted the full 300,000 covered. And I was like, of course this would happen to me. I'm like, dude, there's no way. Like, I can't, I could show you, but it's like, it's AIG all day. And at that time I had become like AIG queen, which was extremely frustrating. I found out later. But yeah, so that was my first in-home, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stick virtually because this was a waste of my time. Because then I just sat in there, and the nurse in me was sitting there like, so tell me about your cancer. So, okay, what kind of treatments are you receiving? All right, what doctor do you go to? Oh my God, I know that doctor. Like, that's my fear of being in home, was like, I would become way too involved in their medical issues, I guess. Mm-hmm. So it was great for us. He chatted with me for a very long time, told me to stop by the next day for some tea. And I'm like, I don't think I should do this. I think I should just stay virtual. So I've kind of been sticking to the phones.
Awesome. I know I had that problem too, because I said it on last week's call, I would always try and be the client's friend. And not necessarily like, it's not bad to build rapport with them, but like, you're not going there to be their friend. You're going there to help them with what they filled out. And that was like so hard for me. And like my next call after hearing that, because Sean and Mike actually like recorded a reel about it. And I was like, yo, I've been doing that a lot. And then like my next appointment, I was like, oh my God, what a difference. Like, what a
Mhm.
difference. I just like went straight to what we needed to get done. And then we were able to get her covered. So, Teresa, talk about what your routine is like. How do you manage juggling being a mom, Uber driver, cook, agency owner, all of the above?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, there's no balance. We ask a lot of different agency owners who are couples in this industry, how do you balance things? And I think it was John Wetmore who said there is no balance, so stop looking for it. You just got to make it work. And like Brandon always says, everybody in your family can't be tug of war. Everybody has to be pulling the same rope, or the rope in the same direction, or it's gonna fall apart. My schedule, or how I balance it is, I drop my kids off to school in the morning. From the time they're dropped off, from the time that I pick them up, I'm running appointments. Now I do both in-home and virtual. I started in-home and then moved to virtual. I was dibbling dabbling in the virtual while we were, through COVID. But from there, I pick them up after school, take them home. I run back to the office, do a couple more appointments, or if I have to go straight home from there, do a couple appointments, and then make it home in time to help with, dinner, get the rest of the things done that I need to be doing. Most of my time is ran on the weekends. For me, my schedule was pretty thick on the weekends, and in order for me to allow myself to have that day off, that Sunday off, I would have to hit my goal, my personal goal, whether it be helping 5 families that week or 10 families that week, whatever it was. I need to make sure that I'm hitting that goal, so that I can get that day off. And that was something Stephen I was like, Stephen, how can I push myself to that? He's like, you got to sacrifice something. What do you like to do on your day off? You can't have that unless you hit this goal. So that really, since that moment to now, is something that I do, consistently. And that's all it is, just being consistent with your schedule. Don't get sidetracked, write everything down. If you're writing it down, if it's not getting written down, it's not going to get done. We can set an alarm on our phone, but then we're going to swipe and snooze it. I know I'm not the only one guilty of doing that. So, write it down. And you're losing brain cells when you're typing in your phone. Write it down. It just makes sense. And that way you see it every day on paper, what needs to be done. That's kind of how I stick to the schedule, and stick to what we're doing as a family. Like, our kids know when we're in the office, you guys got to lean on each other for a little bit and then I'll be right back. So they know that. So it's not where I feel guilty for being in the office for 8-9 hours, because I would have did that if I was sitting at the bank. I still would have been doing that anywhere. But now I'm doing it for them, with them, and they understand that.
I love that. And it's true, even with Steve and I, when we're, explaining to our kids, especially Jules, because she's always wanting to play with mommy and daddy, we tell, mommy and daddy have goals to hit. If we finish this from Monday to Saturday, Sunday is Jules and Bryson day, and we can do whatever you want, but mommy and daddy need this time so that we can help these people and then hit our goal of like spending time with you guys on Sundays. Anna, I know a lot of people are wondering, what is your routine like with 2 sets of twins, 10 kids? Pickups must be crazy for you, and drop-offs too. Kids are probably in sports or in dance. So can you tell us how your schedule is like, where you do find time to actually run appointments and do follow-ups and all that stuff?
I think Teresa hit the nail on the head. I think it's a family game. It's not just about me. It's got to be, you've all got to be, I love your analogy, Teresa, with the whole pulling the same direction. You've got to be on the same page. So with us, it is all about planning. Like, I've got my planner right here. My husband and I, now we have not always been good about this, because like there is no balance. You expect this great plan and there isn't, because nobody's telling you have to show up at this time and you can leave at this time and you can go to the bathroom at this time and you can have vacation on these days. Like, it's a whole new life to say, my time is my own, but also you have to schedule that work time in, right? It has to be a priority. Otherwise there is no income. And so with everybody on the same page, my second oldest son, so my oldest son is in college. My second oldest son just got his driver's license like 2 days ago, and it's been amazing. So we now have another driver in the house, which helps. But I do the same thing where I work. So all of my kids are in school except for my 2 youngest 4-year-olds. And I've got 2 offices. I've got this office here, and then I've got a home office. And in both areas, I've got it set up where they can come and hang out. I've got Play-Doh and a TV and a, little area for them to take naps or draw or snack or anything. And I just work around them and I let them know, hey, shh. And I honestly do that a lot, but I honestly, anytime I'm on the phone, I let them know, hey, look, I'm working out of my house, or I've got my babies with me. So if you hear a dog in the background, you hear my kids, I'm a real person and I'm a mom, and I'm not going to apologize for that. And I'm not going to apologize for being a working mom, because I want to show my children as well, like, hey, like Teresa said, we're a team. We're in this together. So if you hear my kids in the background, that's not me being unprofessional. That's me being a mom and being able to work at the same time. And that's a huge blessing, rather than having somebody else raise my kids because I have to work, right? I get to make this choice. Now, does it help to have a babysitter? Heck yeah, I'd love to have a babysitter. That didn't work out. They didn't like preschool, and I'd rather deal with them here than them crying, right? Than them upset. So I think it's really just making sure everybody's on the same page and making sure that you have a good schedule. And if I'm running in homes, then it's just working it out with the kids. Like, hey, mom's not going to be here today. Matt, you need to pick kids up here and here. Or I do a lot of carpooling with sports. It's a lot of, hey, can you guys, I'll drive kids this day if you drive kids that day, I'll take them to this tournament if you take them. So it's just really connecting with your community, which is also, by the way, guys, fantastic for sharing business. Our head football coach the other day was like, hey, let's chat, because he does financial services. And I'm like, great. I had no idea he did. I was like, yeah, I'd love to chat. I'd love to connect. So it's just, I love what Teresa said. It's just being on the same team. Everybody's on the same page, and you're not, an undercover agent. You're working as a goal, on a goal as a family.
I love that. And it's nice to hear that other agents bring their kids to their office too, because my daughter has her own desk and she calls it her office. And every time she comes in, she's like, Mommy, where's my office? I have like a TV set up for her, Play-Doh too. But she knows, like, every time, because we have glass doors in our office, she'll look and she'll go, I'm like, yeah, Mommy's busy. Like, that's her sign. She knows, How about you, Elaine? What's your routine like with your kids and owning a business and all this stuff?
Well, my kids are older. Like the other 2 women have said, Anna and Teresa, it's 100% true. You have to be on the same page as a family. And, I'm really blessed in the fact that when my husband and when I started doing this and we started seeing like, oh, hey, we can actually really help people and make like a decent income from this. We had a conversation. I didn't want to have because I'm blessed enough that if I needed to, my parents are close enough to watch the kids. But we chose to have kids, and so I wanted one of us to raise the kids, and I wanted one of us to be a part of everything that was important to them. And so when we had that conversation with them and said, hey, I'm going to be working more, Dad's going to be home more, we kind of switched roles in that aspect. He was the one doing like pickups, drop-offs. He was the one that was home more with them, being at the school, that type of thing. Now, because I'm not like in the field as much, because before I was in the field, 4 days a week. Now I do it virtually, and I could do it in 2-3 days from the office. Now I just schedule around what is important to me. Like every week I look at what they have going on, things that are important for my marriage. So we schedule time to spend together, time to spend with the kids. And then I base my work schedule around that. And I just have non-negotiables. Like there's things that I need to be at the office at a certain time because I'm the employee. And if I don't work, there's no money. So.
Yeah. How about you, Leah? You said you had a nursing background. What was the transition like from going to that routine with your kids and family to owning a business with Colton and all that stuff, and still being a mom and supportive spouse?
Yeah. It was an adjustment. I was used to the crazy hours, just in terms of he was running appointments a lot and was very grueling. He was gone all the time. Just trying to kind of make the business get going and everything like that. The nursing and the real estate, that was all I was kind of doing both those things and the kids. So when I finally transitioned out of those and into this, it was almost like a breath of fresh air, because I got to, like, I don't know, kind of give up the craziness of like having to ask my boss to do certain things, or, hey, my kids have off this day and I have to be there, like my husband's out of town. And that was so frustrating. I guess to have to basically beg to, like, hey, I don't have anyone else. I don't know what you want me to do with them. But now being an employer, like, I see both sides. And so I try to be fair. I think that's the cool part of this, is once you do start growing and you do start getting staff, you can be, it is a fine line, but it's not so corporate. And that was a struggle too. I know everyone's kind of, I know all these ladies have had their kids in their office, because I know each of them. At first it was, do we bring the kids in, or is that like offensive to like have our kids there and not let our staff, bring their kids in? Because I can't tell my kids' staff, like, shut the heck up. Like, I can tell my kids that. I can be like, shut your mouth, like, like, sit down, give them like the mom voice, I can't do it to someone else's kids. So there was a lot of like adjusting and trying to figure out what worked and what was okay and what was, and then, owning your business and being able to say, hey, you know what, we're leaving today at 3 to go, coach T-ball. And that's what we finally got to do when Colton pulled out of the field a little bit more, once the business was going and I was able to write. And now, my son's got some issues that we're dealing with, and he has to be 45 minutes across town, like 3 days a week at 4. And I'm like, hey, let's, you do that. Those will be my longer run days. You take him. And just being able to, the whole teamwork thing is so unbelievable. And I do think too that it is really hard when you don't have your spouse on the same page, because it doesn't really matter what your schedule is. And it doesn't matter if you only have your husband or or you are the only one in the business. I've done it both ways, and it's very difficult when you're not on the same page. It was very, very difficult for us when he was in the business and I wasn't, and I didn't understand this side of things. And now seeing it and being able to grow it together and being able to, our Google calendars are total train wreck. But like, we live by those. And like, if someone messes with those or puts an appointment where they're not supposed to, like, all my wrath comes out. It's like, who did this? No, did you not check the Google calendar? Like, we have to, everything is on the Google calendar, because and that's our chaos, but that's what works. And it's constantly a battle of trying to find balance. I'd say, like, there is no balance, but that's a word I'm constantly using. It's like, we're just trying to find the balance. Like, be enough for your husband, be enough for the kids, be enough for the business. You're never going to be great at all of it. I'm always lacking in one area. One day I'm a really, really bad mom. But I like smoke it and I sell like 5 appointments and I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh crap, I have my husband. Forgot about that. Forgot about date night. Like, there's just, you're always going to be lacking something, because we're still human. And I think that sometimes we just have to allow ourselves some grace when it comes to the schedule and the kids. And some days I'm a bad mom, some days I'm a bad wife, and sometimes I'm a really bad boss, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. And when you're saying that, you didn't understand the industry at first, I was in that same boat too, because, for the longest time, it was just Steven running. And he missed out like on the first 2 years of Jules's life. And I remember even before we had Jules, he was constantly on the phone with agents. Like, we would take long drives from SoCal to NorCal, and he wouldn't say one word to me, because he's like, trying to build this thing and make these sacrifices. And I remember when he first started, he's like, this is a sacrifice I'm going to make, but it will get us here, and when I started running recently, I'm like a month and a half in, I wanted to quit every day. And it was really, really hard. And like, we had a conversation and I asked him, I'm like, how did you manage like not to quit every day? And he told me, because, every day I wanted to quit. And I was like, dialing is really hard, getting rejected is really hard. And it was like emotional for me. It even got to me like mentally. And I asked him, I'm like, did you want to quit every day? And he was like, honestly, yes. And I said, how did you not quit? And then he said, I would look at my phone And it was a picture of me and Jules at the time. And he said, I would try and figure out how I would tell you guys, hey, daddy's going to quit today. And I just couldn't, is what was his answer. And he was saying, like, you know, there was no option to quit. And like, I felt bad because I'm like, man, I gave him all this stuff where I'm like, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. But like, now that I understand the industry and that I'm in it, I'm like, man, I could have cut him a lot of slack. So it was hard. But like, hearing this, like, how did you guys deal with being a supportive spouse still when you were still like in those admin stages? Because I know a lot of people on here, you know, some of them are spouses who are starting out in the industry, and some of them don't understand, like, you know, it takes, the business takes away, you know, from family time and date nights and stuff, but the initial sacrifice of like what they can possibly get. Teresa, can you touch base more on that?
Yes. So for me, for us, I got fired and hired every week. Brandon, I was his admin, his, you know, go-to, but I really wanted to learn what he was doing so I could understand the frustration, because I'm not going to have him vent to somebody else about it. I want to know what's going on so I can help you fix it or figure it out. Maybe I could do it a little different. But just, you know, it's a lot of sacrifice, it is. And Brandon was probably on most of those calls with Steven while he was getting started and things like that. So, so I just roll with the punches. Like, I know one thing for certain is Brandon's not going to steer you wrong when it comes to business, or business decision, or food. So there's two things, but, but I know, and I believe in him, and I know he's a hard worker, and I know there's always going to be some type of sacrifice, whether we're working a 9 to 5 at a corporate job or we're doing it here. You just got to be willing and understanding to what's going to happen, understand the goal, understand the process, and then that way you're not so hard on them. Like, I give him hell, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I give him hell every other day. Why not? Because we're married and we can do that. But but you know, at the end of the day, he still makes time for what's important, and his family is important. And so, you know, you just gotta, again, it comes back to being on the same page. Everybody's got to be on the same page. There's going to be some things that we're not going to be able to do for a while. I'm going to be traveling a lot. I'm going to be doing a lot of things. You know, he would tell us that, and we understood it. And was it tough? Like, everybody asked me, your husband's always gone. He's always traveling. Like, how do you feel about that? I miss him, but I don't miss being broke, you know? So I don't miss, you know, having to, you know, pay this bill late to get this one paid. You know, I don't miss that. So I'm going to take whatever is thrown at us and just work through it together. I mean, that's what we signed up to do. And that's how we're going to continue to do it until we reach the goal that we're all chasing. So it's tough. I'm not going to lie. It's tough. And it's just, if your spouse is not on understanding what it is, whether you're male and trying to get your wife on board, or you're female trying to get your husband on board, just take a step back, take a minute, listen to what it is, listen to the process, see if that's something that you can, you know, take what you can get from it, and then see how you can help them, because that's exactly what I did. Wherever I lack, he's great, and vice versa. And it's just going to continue to be that way throughout this process. It's chaotic, but it's our life. Welcome to Family First Life.
The communication is key, right, to everything, even not just our relationships with our husbands and spouses, kids, even with like our agents. How about you, Elaine? How did you deal with, you know, with all that?
Honestly, it's funny. I remember when Taylor used to be in the field, and he used to run business in Fresno. So he when he started, there was like no other lead type but direct mail mortgage leads. So he used to travel, and then everything in where we live, there was like 20 FFL agents. So he had to like drive 5 hours to get mortgage leads. And I'd dial for him, and I'd book his appointments. And I remember he would be in the house for like an hour, and I'd like, oh, he's definitely writing something, like, awesome, because our rent is due tomorrow. So, and he'd come out and he'd call me. I'd be like, hey, or he wouldn't call, and I could see that he's driving. Like, I'd track him, and I'd be like, hey, what happened? And he'd be like, oh yeah, they said they had to think about it. And I'd be so mad. Like, I'd be like, now looking back, I'm like, man, like, that's why I didn't give him any grace. Like, I was so hard on him. And in the beginning, I didn't understand, because now I'm like, shoot, sorry, babe. I apologize like years later. Like, sorry, I shouldn't have been so hard on you, because this business is hard. You know, it's easy to go into homes and make friends. And people, once you have that friendship with your clients, it's easy for them to say no. It's easy for them to be like, hey, let me show you this. Let me show you this. And then you're there for an hour and you haven't even talked about life insurance. So now looking back, I like, he's so patient with me when I have bad days, but it took a lot. And I think it allowed me, like, being in the business allowed me to just relate to a lot of like couples that I work with. And I'm just like, hey, I was in your shoes. I remember being frustrated because they're gone and you're with the kids and things like that. But this business, it's hard for them too, because they're just doing the best that they can. So
You know, when you guys started running in the field and stuff, or when you started selling, how did you deal with like all of the doubts and fears and, you know, the mom guilt of not being able to spend time with your kids? And I'm sure there were times where, you know, you couldn't have date nights with Mac, right? Because even though we're married, they always say continue to date your spouse. You know, how'd you find the time to like overcome all that stuff and the strength?
I think it's a like an ongoing process. And I think all of you guys can agree, being a business owner is more than just getting good at one thing. It's constantly being faced with what you're bad at and being willing to get good at what you're bad at, and understanding that that is a process. And like, I think all of you said, give yourself some grace, give yourself some mercy. Because when I was like gung-ho, I was like, I totally can do this, you know, I've dialed. And then every single day that I started, I remember I quit. My last day of work was April 15th. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to give myself a week to like get set up. Right. And then I would start dialing. And then, you know, I'd have this breakdown because, you know, dialing is so hard. And it's not really, but it's all of the facing the emotions about it. Right. And having for some reason, somehow I put so much pressure on myself. And so from April to the end of May, I was like half in, half out. I was like, I hate this. Oh, I made a sale. This is the greatest business in the world. I'm going to do this forever. And then, you know, the next day I hate this. I want to quit. And it's just constantly being faced with not even just the rejection, but like having to see yourself for where you're really at in life. Right? Emotionally, mentally, physically, all of that. And so finally, the end of May, I was like, I am really tired of this. I am tired of being half in and half out. And so I'm just going to run for it. I'm going to do a 6-week run. And at the end of the 6-week run, I'm going to give myself permission to quit, because I refuse to quit something I haven't actually tried. And I'm going to quit. I refuse to quit before I'm actually good at it, because being bad sucks. No matter what, being bad sucks, right? So any agent, I've got my heater down here. Any agent that like gets started and they're a week or two in and they're like, this sucks, I quit. Well, dude, yes, there is a period where you're really bad at something, and nobody likes to be bad at something or have to start over and be brand new. So give yourself enough grace and time to get good. And that's what I told myself. 6 weeks, I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to act like I'm oil filled again, 18-hour days. And 6 days a week, and I'm just going to run at it. And if at the end of that 6 weeks, I am still miserable, I still suck, right? And I still want to quit and go do something else, I give myself full permission to do that. And so, and that was my kids' summer break. I took my entire kids' summer break, and I was like, you know, we're not going anywhere. This is something that mom has to do for me. And did I have mom guilt? Heck yeah, I had mom guilt. But I also have mom guilt when I was oil filled, and I had to do that because we had to make money. I mean, I was gone for 2-3 weeks at a time, living in a man camp, working 18-hour days. I didn't even see my kids except for Zoom here and there, right? So I think mom guilt is a choice that we have to realize, dude, at some point you got to do what you got to do, and you got to let go. And if you plan that time with your kids, and you make sure that's a priority, just like working is a priority, the mom guilt goes away. So at the end of at the beginning, like there were still tears. I tracked my whole journey on Facebook, and, you know, there was definitely tears. I would go into my husband's office after a day and I'd be crying, and I'd be like, I really suck at this. I have no idea what I'm doing. People are just telling me no left and right. right? I'm way too nice. Like they tell me that they can't do it. And I'm like, you're right, you can't. This is way too much money, you know, like everything. And then by the end of that 6 weeks, like within, I think it was end of July, like I had helped over 30 families from July 1 to the end of July. And all I was trying to do was help 4.5 families. If you remember, like that was what I was trying to prove myself, that I could help 4.5. And instead I helped over 30. And I was like, that's not even me. Like, I have no idea. People just all of a sudden popped up. Like, I'm not that good. And so it was really just a matter of giving myself permission to commit to it, to make sure that I was good. And then realizing that, dude, any job that you do, any career that you do, any business that you do, I don't care if you love it. There's going to be pieces about it that you don't like, no matter what you do. There's going to be mom guilt because you're a mom. Dude, we have mom guilt without working. I have mom guilt because I don't buy my kids all the things that they want. And I know that's not good for them, right? And that still makes me feel guilty. And I don't know why, because they're great at debate. I don't know. But I think really it's just giving yourself some mercy, but also educating your expectations that there's days that are going to suck. And that's not because it's this business, it's FFL, it's selling life insurance. It's because that's life and that's okay. And then you're going to have another great day, and it's going to reinforce why you do what you do, because you can help 10 families in a day. And that's something I could never do as an admin or, you know, slinging hammers on a rig. I couldn't make 10 or help 10 families in a day. Right?
I love that.
So,
And I think that's like such a common mistake that a lot of people make coming in at this industry because they think it's 1099. You know, they can wake up at 10 a.m. They can call leads whenever they want to. But you're right. If they're not doing this, they're doing an 8 to 5 job. And if they don't have time then, you know, to cook dinner, go on date nights, spend time with their kids, what makes them think coming into this industry is the same thing, right? Leah, what other advice do you have for new agents and like new coming moms and stuff?
I would say probably kind of go off Anna there. Like there's good days and there's bad days, but you have to stay even. Like you have to stay kind of right in the middle where you're not getting too excited on the really good days. And I still find myself doing that, like, oh, killed it. And I just like go brag around the house, brag around the office, like, yeah, you can't touch this. And then like the next day I'm like, everyone sucks. I hate this. Like, I'll still do it. But like at the end of the day, like you still have to kind of keep that even kill of like, I'm not going to get too excited. I'm not going to get too down. Otherwise, you're just riding this never ending roller coaster of emotion. And that goes with, I mean, it's the same as, and a lot of people on here may not be married too, you know, like a lot of people watching this. So it's not just, you know, in your relationship, it's, you know, with the kids, it's with, and like, it's always this, and that's just life. I think sometimes you just have to remember that you are going into self-employment. And I think that's, if you haven't done that before, that itself is like a roller coaster of, holy cow, I didn't realize like owning my own job or like having to set my own schedule and actually stick to it. I don't have someone telling me to do something every day. It's just my bank account now telling me like, you got to do something today. So I think reminding yourself that you are starting your own business, on top of becoming a life insurance agent, on top of changing schedules, on top of everyone's lives is always, we're always going to be changing. We're just like our clients, right? Like everything's always going to be changing. So you have to remember that. That's what I would, I guess, say. Stay even.
All right. It looks like we have a question here, and you guys can post your questions in the chat box here, but someone's asking, what's your advice for someone whose spouse that isn't on the same page? And how do you continue to have a right mindset to still perform at a high level?
Leave them. No, I'm kidding. Don't leave them.
You're not kidding.
He is totally kidding, guys. All right, Teresa, you want to answer that?
There was a conference where Sean said that. So
Yeah.
I mean, for me, if I would never let anybody get in the way of making my money. I just wouldn't, because I was raised by a single father, so he taught me to be very independent, not to rely on anybody's money. So a lot of people think, well, Brandon she could just, you know, take Brandon's money. No, I'm very independent, and I want to make sure that I have my own funds. Like I can definitely go in his account if I want to, but do I? No, all I have to do is get to work. And that was before this, and that would be after this. You know, I'm going to make sure that I show my daughters how to be independent women, never rely on somebody else's pocket. And if they're not on the same page, cool, that's all right. But you just get to understand that I will be reaching out to others who are business mindset, just like me, who are in the field, just like me, who are running the same thing, just like me. And so I may not communicate with you and you may not understand what I'm going through. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not going to let anybody else dictate how much money I make any longer. That's not going to be for corporate America. It's not going to be for a friend. It's not going to be for family, nothing like that. I'm just not going to let nobody distract me from getting my bag.
I love that.
That's
Yeah, it's true. You know, and with us, we don't believe in divorce, the religion that I come from. So I want to just get up and leave Steve. But, you know, it definitely takes time. My best advice is, because a lot of people aren't supportive when it comes to this industry, because they look at it and they go, that's a pyramid scheme, or you know, that's fake. It's not real money. I think your success is what will prove these people wrong. And not just that, but it'll prove that it works. So, you know, if you have a spouse that isn't supportive right now, like we had mentioned, communication is key. If you're not communicating to them like the type of sacrifices you need to make, then they're not going to know. You know what I mean? Like with Steve, when he first started out in the industry, like he told me, I need to sacrifice 2 years. You know, I'm going to miss out on the first 2 years of Jules's life. But the nice thing is, you know, she's not going to remember. But when she is 5 years old at a baseball game or, you know, a dance recital, I'm going to be there and she's going to remember that daddy is there. And it's because of those 2 years that I sacrificed is why daddy can be here. You know what I mean? Anyone want to add to that?
I was just going to add real quick too. I think what Leah was saying earlier, if your spouse is not supportive, don't let your spouse be the one that you complain to. Because you're going to have complaints, you're going to have frustrations, you're going to have, and I don't want to say complaints, I don't like the complaining because you're not looking for solutions, but you're going to have hard times, you're going to have bad times. So you need to have a person that you can talk through those times through, because if your spouse is the one that you are showing the negativity or the negative side of it, they are going to be negative about it. But if you're like, I got this, I'm not having the success I want to have yet, but I'm going to have it, like, and you have a schedule, you have consistency, then why wouldn't they support you? Right? But if you're not working and you're not making money, then of course they're going to be negative about it. But what spouse is going to be negative if you're consistent, you're trying, and you're bringing home income?
And then another thing I would say is, everyone is programmed to make, to think like 60,000 a year that's the norm. Like what we do here seems so out of reach for a lot of people. So I tell people all the time, like, we all have a financial thermometer. I think I read it in a book. It's like Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. Like what I think is possible, it might not be necessarily what my husband Taylor thinks is possible. So what I do is when we weren't on the same page, now I would say, like, now we're on 100% on the same page, but we weren't on the same page about the business. Like I would tell him about the good things in the business. Like, babe, I protected 20 families, this month. Or I tell him like, oh, I helped, I just talked to this agent and, she was able to pay her mortgage on time. Or, oh, I talked to this agent and he was able to go to his son's baseball game and he's never been able to do that. So I would just share all of the things that this business has allowed, not just your family, but just other people to do. And then eventually they're going to see it. And eventually they're going to be like, obviously they're going to notice like, oh, we don't live on credit cards anymore. Or, oh, we pay the bills on time. And they're going to be like, oh, maybe this is real. So I just be patient. And then, like everybody's saying, I'd reach out to the right people. I would say if you're struggling in the business or if you're having a bad day, talk to someone that is going to, speak life into you and speak life into your business. And that's not going to, and just don't talk to your spouse about the business until they're at that point. So
I should chime in and say, I'm totally kidding. Don't leave them. I could have left him a million times. I was the negative spouse for a little bit. I was pregnant with our third, like it was a whole thing. But at the end of the day, like all these girls said it exactly right. Like it's not sometimes you have to get down to the root of why they're being negative about it. Maybe he's not negative about, I'm sure he's not negative about you, right? Like maybe he's fully supportive of you. But when I came home and complained about my nursing, my management job, management sucks. I hate this. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. He said, quit. Like that's what they're kind of wired to do, right? Is like maybe he is trying to support you. Be careful of what you say. And I know Colton at one point just stopped telling me about the chargebacks because I'd get so upset. He'd be like, he used to tell, like, he'd wake up in the morning and be so angry. And then I'd be like, cool, way to start both of our days like crap. But then he stopped telling me that. And then he'd just show me the leaderboards, right? Like, okay, I can get on board with this. Like sometimes you have to just be careful about what you're saying, but also get down to the root of what his fear is of this for you. Maybe he's just being cautious for you, maybe, and that's his job. So maybe definitely look into like ask more questions. That's what I've found out is just always ask more questions. And that's kind of how we always kind of get on the same page about something. Don't divorce him. Don't blame me. Sorry about that.
Leah said this on the Sky's the Limit.
She told me to leave you. He's gonna like find me.
All right, Leah's phone number is, no, I'm totally kidding.
Right.
All right, guys, thank you so much for hopping on this call. We hope you guys found this very informative. Hopefully you guys got a lot of your questions answered about, juggling through being a mom, being a supportive spouse, being a business owner, and just being in this industry. Feel free to reach out to any of us. You guys have us all on social media. We're all one big team. We all love each other. So hopefully everybody has a blessed day. Thank you guys for hopping on again.